This is the strongest Gale Mage PVE build in all of Deepwoken. With this build, I used to be able to get to 98% pen on my mantras, but now it's still 88%. This will let me absolutely decimate the HP of any boss in my way. Compared to the Archangel build that I recently showcased, as well as my Godslayer V3, this build is significantly less tanky than the Archangel, but significantly less mobile than the Godslayer V3 as well. Where it excels at is this is one of, if not the highest damage builds in the game. This means that purely for farming bosses like Primadon and Ferryman, it is a must-have if you want to farm them efficiently. With this build, in my first day of using it, I was able to get a 20-second Ferryman kill, and it can go a lot lower. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this build. Since it's pretty easy to progress if you've seen my progression, and can be seriously rewarding once it's maxed out, since you'll have infinite relics for any build you make. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get over to making the build. Right, the race for this build doesn't really matter. I went Etrian, although technically if you want to min-max this build, you can go Vesperian, although like I said, it doesn't matter. Your oath is going to be Dawnwalker. You want Dawnwalker for the Blinding Dawn mantra. Origin, you ideally want Voidwalker just so you can go to the Void Heart and sell wood. Bell doesn't really matter, and Murmur's obviously going to be Ardor for Ardor Scream. And your outfit is Black Diver for the 20% extra mantra pen it provides. For your boons and flaws, you can have Pack Mule and any other boon. For your flaws, it also doesn't really matter. As long as you don't have Deficient, you'll be fine. Right, so for your starting stats, you want to put 8 points into Willpower, 5 points into Fortitude, and get 10 Gale at the start of your build. Now for this build, you want to go to 20 Gale first to get Tornado. This will make leveling up easier. Then we go to 50 Willpower and 50 Fortitude. From there we go back and we go all the way to 90 Intelligence and then to 80 Willpower. Now we just put 1 point to Charisma and 1 point to Strength. And then we have 8 points before we power up. To do that, I just put 8 points into either Strength or Charisma. Then once we hit Power 16, we Shrine of Order. These should be the rough stats that you end up with. You'll already meet the requirements of pretty much everything we need. So from here, all you need to do is get to 100 Gale Breath. From here, you just go back and you get to 74 Intelligence. And that's the stats for the build. It's pretty simple. Technically, you only need 70 Intelligence and can put 4 points wherever you want, but I put it back into Intelligence just for the sake of ether. Off Shrine of Order, it doesn't really matter what floor you get, but Glutton is probably the best floor, since Carnivore will make sure that your hunger is kept high. Now we're going to go into 6 Song Chant and 6 Erudition for maximum ether and mantra pen / damage. Now coming over to the talents, we want to get Neural Overload, Ether Overdrive, and a World Without Song. Then we get Overflowing Dam. This will only really help with a single M1, but hey, it's not a horrible thing to have more damage. Then Perfect Flash. This is a must-have. If you're gonna flawless bosses, you'll be doing it insanely fast. You can get some of the other intelligence talents for the sake of carry load, although I'll be sticking to just the required talents on the build maker. Obviously, there will be some wiggle room, so you could pick extra talents that you like. We're gonna get Eureka, since we got Ether back, then to the finish an Exoskeleton for the sake of defense, Neuroplasticity, Piercing Will and Lose Your Mind add a ton of extra mantra pen and damage, then we definitely want Thresher Claws, and then nothing else here matters. I've had people ask why I don't get Speed Demon on this build since we get extra speed really easily, but your M1 damage truly just doesn't matter that much. Coming down here, you don't really need any of these. I did get Vacuum Punch just because I thought it might be useful, although it's not required. You definitely want Approaching Singularity. The purpose of putting more points into our intelligence at the end was for the sake of getting a tiny bit more mantra pen than other builds. Now we want Grand Feast and Carnivore to give you infinite health, Master Craftsman so you don't need a crafting station, plus that's plus 5 HP, Underdog, Giant Slayer and Tough Love for damage. Then down here you'll end up getting Gale Breath Unbound for free anyways, that's plus 10 HP, as well as Master Gale Breather. Then we want to get Inhale and Aftercut for more damage, Windstep for just general mobility. Then we also want to get breathing exercises on this build, as well as Old Habits Die Hard and Health Pack and Ether Kit. These 4 add a lot of extra health and ether. None of these really matter, although if you want one of them, then I guess getting Armor Conserver already or not isn't a bad thing. Ardor Scream is a must, it adds a ton of damage to the build. Then we want Snake Oil. You technically don't need to go Snake Oil on this build, it's just that if you want to farm more notes, Snake Oil provides a massive buff. Then we want to get Path Spectre as well as Apparitions for extra damage. Unfazed and Grasp on Reality is a must, and then we want to get Maestro's Blade finally, just for that tiny bit more M1 damage and the ability to apply wind to your M1s. Then I'm just going to add the extra quest talents, including Heretic Sutra, which is very important to get before you Shrine of Order. The good thing about quest talents is they don't actually count towards your total talents on this build anymore, so it lets us get an actual estimation of what the final stats of this build will be, without quest talents adding a ton. Also, I forgot earlier, but Scuba Drowner and Blood Iron Spirit give you 10 HP and have useful effects to them. You should end with 40 cards, although realistically it's a bit lower than this since you don't need all the plus 5 HP talents. This build should be super easy and you should be able to complete it on your first try like I did. Now for your mantras, we want to get Tornado, that's our main damage dealer, as well as Gale Trap, Wind Punch, and Astral Wind. These 4 will provide you insane amounts of damage. For mobility, you can get Gale Lunge, as well as Wind Passage to help you deal with clones and catch up to Ferryman. Then we want to get Blinding Dawn. It's an AoE move that does a ton of damage on this build. To players, I'm dealing 3 bars with it, so that's how you know it's strong. Gale Wisp makes you spawn more apparitions, which, results in more damage. And then you want to get Reinforced. This closes out all your mantras. This will give you a maximum amount of damage and a good amount of movement as well. While this build isn't nearly as mobile as my other builds, it certainly does the most damage of any build I've ever seen. For your weapon, it doesn't really matter at all. There's 2 options. You can either use a Hero Blade of Wind for pure M1 damage, although I think a normal starter sword with Providence Thorns is actually pretty good for bosses, since it'll deal a percentage of their health for free. Now for the rings on this build, we're going to put a Ring of Casters and an Ishin's Ring. While it doesn't look like it, we do actually have higher damage than you think. Then for the last 2, I just want an Intelligence and a Willpower Ring. They don't add a ton of damage, but they're still good. Obviously the raw M1 damage isn't super high, but we definitely make up for it with how strong our mantras are. In total, I believe this build has 87 mantra pen, which is pretty damn crazy. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is the ultimate Ferryman and Primadon farming build. If we come to the total health, we're getting a ton of health and max ether, which is super good for this build. You can also get a lot higher carry load if you decide to take carry load talents. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out some other PvE content. And I'll see you all next time.